know Russo deserves a lot of credit, but the people he was producing at the time get some of that credit too, because you can write a you could write a turd into a good scene and it's still going to be a turd. It's still going to be a long cylindrical piece of fecal material. And so The Rock is extremely talented, so you can't say, oh, Russo did it again. Yeah, Russo wrote him in some great stuff, but The Rock's a talented guy. He's great. Russo, so just as much credit as you give him, you need to give the guys. So I think Russo is definitely not a one-trick pony. He gets it. I know the WCW years are questionable. I think they're questionable even in his mind, but he did some great stuff, and he does some good stuff at TNA too. But he doesn't. It was such a good time. He had such a talent pool to pick from, and it was a great time to be a wrestler. It was a great time to be a fan, and it was a great time to be a writer. He had these guys to write for, and once you would get these guys established, shoot, you could literally write with a turd, and it would come out smelling like roses. It's just how it was. So yeah, he deserves a lot of credit, but he's not the end-all be-all, and the wrestlers aren't either. But together they made beautiful television, and so I definitely, and I like the guy. I like him as a man. I like Vince Russo. We had our ups, we had our downs. We cussed each other out. I wadded up paper that he wrote for me, threw it in his face several times. We had our ups and our downs. But as a man, I respect the dude, and as a writer, I think he struck gold several times.
I think where she gets all her heat from is that she didn't know the wrestling business coming into a wrestling company, so that right there in itself is a spells disaster. She's extremely smart business wise, but you can be extremely business wise and come into the wrestling world, and that's a whole nother monster. Everybody knows that everybody wants to be a wrestling, promoter, wants to do this, and wrestling promoters and in general, wrestling has a bad name for that. And then she's going to come in and try to run a company that they say is, right below WWE or trying to compete with WWE, and you don't really know, because I think it's because Vince knows so much and has been doing it his whole life. And Dixie Carter's been doing it for 10 years, and it's nothing against her. It doesn't make her a bad person. It just puts her in a really, really bad spot.
Yeah, puts her in a tough spot. The truth of it is, as a person, again, she's a sweetheart. She's a beautiful, smart, rich. There's I don't know why that was put in there, but she is. The main financer of TNA bailed, and she picked up the slack, and so. She shouldn't be demonized for that. She should be put on a pedestal, and I think she is by the right people. But she always cared about me personally. She always cared about my family personally. She tried to get me to go to. She tried herself to talk me into going to rehabs probably 10 times on long, tearful conversations on the phone. And so I love Dixie Carter. I think her whole family's sweet. They're good people. But like Billy said, she stepped into stepped into the snake pit. That's what the wrestling world is. She had she had no idea what she was getting into. And I think she's actually handled it well. She's surrounded herself with people who do know the business, and she lets them handle the wrestling business side of it, and she handles the financial business side of it. And so I give her all the credit in the world, man. This is a company that people said would go under in 6 months. And now we are literally 10 years later talking about Dixie Carter right here in my hotel room in Evansville, Indiana, and we're going to go to the Gathering tonight and wrestle the NWO.